You're watching the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Video Podcast.
Well, hi there. My name is Brent Smith, and I'm the Common Constitutionalist, and welcome back to another edition of the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Video Podcast, where today I'm going to be talking about what no one else seems to be talking about. Bailouts. Okay? So that's what we'll be discussing today on the Weekend Common Constitutionalist Video Podcast. I'll be right back. Alrighty then. Well, might as well do the weather, as I always do. I don't know. This is it's surreal weather in New England. I was in a jacket when I got here, and I sat down, and it's bright sunshine, and it's probably in the 50s at this point. And now, normally in the summer, obviously the 50s, it would be absurd just to even think about not having a jacket on. But right now, woke up the other morning, drove to work. I think it was like 19 or 20, low 20s or something like that degrees. Freaking freezing out. The week prior to that, I was in shorts and a tank top, as you can attest to if you watch the video. And it's just, I don't know, schizophrenic weather. No idea. So anyway, no one's talking about the bailouts. Oh, they're coming. I guarantee you, they're freaking coming, man. But unfortunately, no one's talking about it until now, until moi, all right? And unfortunately, it may be too late, depending on how the election finally pans out, and on December the 14th, I assume we'll know, maybe not, I don't know. What was Bush v. Gore went 37 days without being decided, so who the heck knows, all right? But James Carville, back in 1992, during the 1992, during the presidential campaign of between Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush, and of course Ross Perot, that lost George H.W. Bush enough votes to beat Bill Clinton. He famously coined the phrase, "It's the economy, stupid." He was Clinton's chief campaign advisor, and he was really good at it. Rush did a lot of memes and a lot of parodies about James Carville in his time, and they were freaking hilarious. But what's that mean? It's the economy, stupid. It means in every election cycle, people vote their pocketbooks or people vote their wallets, depending on your gender. Get it? You frackin', whatever. And here comes the wind. If your individual economy or financial situation, and you may have heard this old saying, I guess, is good and improving, you're going to vote for the incumbent president and whoever's in charge at the time. If you happen to be doing well, if your financial situation sucks, you blame the incumbent or tend to believe the challenger, okay, who says I can do better. Build back better. Not even going to go into that one. It's the difference. It's the of old sayings. It's the difference between a recession and a depression. A recession is classified as your neighbor losing his job. A depression is classified as you losing yours. There you go. All right. It's why this COVID hoax is such a big deal. Now, before everybody gets their panties in a bunch, COVID-19 is not actually a hoax. The actual virus is not a hoax, okay? The draconian measures to try to prevent the spread of COVID-19, which you can't prevent, you can put it off. You can put off the inevitable, but the inevitable will come eventually. The bill will always come due, as it were. And that's what I mean by the hoax. Okay, the lockdowns, the shutdowns, the mask wearing, the ridiculousness of this thing is all an absolutely unscientific, unproven hoax. That's what I mean by a hoax. We had the best economy our nation had ever known prior to the hoax. The shutdowns, the lockdowns, the mask wearing, the social distancing, the nonsense. You've heard the saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, and all our boats were rising across every spectrum, every race, every gender. Everyone was doing better. The only reason why you weren't doing better is if you chose to not do better. Other than that, there was plenty of wealth to go around. In that environment, Trump he wouldn't even have the campaign. Okay, it would have been an absolute tsunami victory over Biden or whoever actually won the eventual Democrat nomination. But then, by sheer happenstance, along comes a pandemic right before the election. Okay, do I think it was planned? No, of course the pandemic I don't believe was planned. Okay, if I ever see evidence to the contrary, I'll certainly bring it to everyone's attention. Although by the time I bring it to everyone's attention, it should be world news. But the response, the timing, it sure was. At least I think so. Don't you? I mean, it was just so coincidental as to suspend credulity. If I think Hillary Clinton said that at one time, I'd have to suspend all credulity. And sure, I'll be honest with you, this whole thing would make a great premise to an action thriller detective type of big blockbuster movie. It would be awesome. I mean, it's tailor-made for something like this. It would be huge, like Jason Bourne comes out of retirement and solves the whole thing or something. I don't know. Sherlock Holmes, whatever. But let's get back to bailouts. The top 5 dead broke states are as follows. California is 100, and this was as of 2019. This was before COVID, okay? California was $153 billion, approaching $250 billion in debt, okay? Dead ass broke. New York, $140 billion. Massachusetts, $80 billion. New Jersey, $66. Illinois, $62, okay? Now, all states have debt. If you look up the charts and graphs and whatever, they all have debt. But these are the states and many more which are dead broke and they have virtually no chance of ever coming back. They're not going to be able to dig themselves out of these freaking holes. There's no way. And every major city is in basically the same boat. They're also dead broke. And what do they all have in common? Well, we all know. They're run by leftists. All of them are run by leftists. All the deadest, brokest states and cities and towns and counties and districts and whatnot have been run by leftists for decades and decades and decades. The leftist tax and spend policies, the mandated programs and promises that you can't ever possibly pay for, and it didn't make any difference because all they want to do is kick the debt down the road and hope for some freaking miracle or at least a boogeyman that they can blame all their misery and woe on, rather than their electorate looking at them and saying, dude, you taxed and spent us into oblivion. It's your fault. It's not Trump's fault. It's not the Republicans' fault. It's not conservative states' fault. It's your fault. And they've been wanting a federal bailout for basically ever, but haven't gotten it. And they're sure as heck not going to. I remember them asking for a federal bailout, I don't know, it was a year or two ago or something like that, saying that they're really going to need it. They're really going to need it. It's an emergency at this point. And Trump said, there's no way I'm bailing you leftist governors and mayors out. No chance. So, you ever wonder why these mayors and governors haven't made a big deal? I mean, yes, they've complained and they've asked for businesses to stay and whatnot as businesses move out of their states and their districts and their cities. But they haven't made as big a deal as you would think they would because they're so dead blank and broke about losing all that money from their stupid lockdown orders and their mandates and from all the people moving out, like I said, of their pitifully managed states. It just hasn't been that earth-shattering movement that you would think that these states, if they were in this much real trouble, which they are, would make a bigger deal about it. And it's because they're banking on a bailout. Talk about your Great Reset. You know what I'm saying? They trashed their own city and state economies, almost to the brink of collapse. They're virtually this close to collapse at this point. And then Trump gets blamed for the bad economy, COVID, okay, like it was his fault, like he brought it from China over here. And they get the shell president elect, Biden, assuming he wins all the way this is looking like it may shake out. And he's a shell president run by radical leftists, and voila, guess what happens to the states and the cities? Boom. Overnight, all their debt is paid for, gone, and disappeared. Son of a gun, that's been the plan of these governors and mayors. Maybe not this whole time, but once they knew what they had, and once they knew that there was a path to being able to wipe out all their debts so they could just start over again, the Great Reset, as it were, I'm pretty sure that they didn't care who moved out, who moved in, how much economy was lost, how many businesses went out of business. It didn't make any difference to them. I'm almost certain. And once their debt is erased by us, the federal taxpayer, okay, once the federal government goes deeper in debt to bail out these irresponsible douchebags, they're not going to learn their lesson. They're not going to learn anything by it. They're just going to reset, start over, start at ground zero, and they're not going to live within their means, and they're not going to cut up their credit cards and whatnot. They're going to run them up, and they're going to go on a huge, never before, in my opinion, seen spending binge. They're going to rack up debt faster than ever, and they're going to leave it to someone else to worry about after they're long gone, because it'll take that much time to add up to a couple $100 billion. Maybe not as much time as it did before, but I think that that's the plan. And so far, frankly, it's been executed flawlessly and evidently under the radar, because I stay pretty plugged into this stuff, and I haven't heard word one about what's coming. But I'm telling you, bank on it, buddy. It's coming. I got to hand it to him. I mean, this is a brilliant plan. Okay, get Joe Biden elected, get all these leftists into the cabinet. You know what, Joe Biden isn't going to be running the government. He's not going to be running the executive branch. And if we lose the Senate, then all bets are off. It doesn't make any difference anyway. We won't recognize our country by next summer. It's just that simple on this front and many others. But at any rate, it is also evil beyond measure, but it is in fact brilliant. This plan is in fact brilliant, and I can guarantee you that if and when Biden ends up taking the office, and Trump leaves, very shortly after, there are going to be calls for state and city bailouts, and they will not go unheeded this time. I guarantee you, they will find, the Biden administration will find a way to bail all these states and districts and cities out, and so they can start over again and just start their spending binges all over again. My name is Brent Smith. I'm the Common Constitutionalist. Other than that, I ain't got nothing to say about the topic. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, which I should have said in the first place. Boy, I suck so bad at this. I can't stand it. It's pitiful. So take pity on me. Like, subscribe, share, comment, do all that happy crap, hit the alerts. I got to start doing that, man. I tell everybody else, hit my alert button. You know, the least I could do is the people that I watch hit the alert button. So do that do it for the children. Okay, that's all I got. See ya.